Do it like this. The rancher paused for a moment, then did the unthinkable. Wild West Archives. The sun was just beginning to rise over Willow Creek Ranch. The sky was soft orange, and a gentle wind moved across the wide-open fields. Everything looked calm and peaceful, like the world had just woken up and was taking a slow breath. At the center of this quiet land stood rancher Elias Carter. He was a man in his late 40s, known across nearby towns for his calm nature and wise thinking. He did not speak much, but when he did, people listened. His words were never wasted, and his actions always carried meaning. That morning, Elias was already outside before anyone else. He stood near the old wooden stables, watching the animals slowly wake up. The horses moved gently inside their pens, shaking off sleep and waiting for their day to begin. A young ranch worker named Tom was already busy nearby. Tom was new to the ranch. He was strong and energetic, but he often got frustrated when things did not go his way. That morning, he was struggling with a brown horse that refused to cooperate. The horse kept stepping back every time Tom tried to place the saddle. It shook its head and snorted, clearly uncomfortable. Tom sighed deeply and wiped sweat from his forehead, even though the morning air was still cool. "Why won't you listen?" Tom said in frustration, more to himself than the animal. Elias stood a few steps away, quietly observing. He did not interrupt. He did not rush in. He simply watched, like he was studying both the horse and the young man. After a moment, Elias slowly walked over. His footsteps were calm and steady, not making the horse nervous. The animal noticed him but did not move away. Tom stepped back slightly. "I've tried everything," he said. "It just won't let me saddle it." Elias nodded without judgment. He looked at the horse for a long moment, then at Tom. "Do it like this," Elias said gently. His voice was quiet but firm enough to get attention. Tom frowned slightly. "Like what?" Elias did not answer immediately. Instead, he stepped closer to the horse. He did not grab it or force it. He simply stood near its shoulder, letting the animal feel his presence. The horse shifted a little but did not panic. Elias raised his hand slowly and placed it on the horse's neck. He did it carefully, giving the horse time to understand that he meant no harm. He stood still for a few seconds, just breathing calmly. Tom watched closely, confused but interested. Elias then moved to the saddle. Instead of trying to force it onto the horse, he let the horse see it first. He held it in front of the animal, letting it inspect it. The horse sniffed it cautiously. "Most animals," Elias said softly, "are like people. If they feel rushed or forced, they resist. But if you give them time, they understand you." Tom listened but still looked unsure. Elias slowly placed the saddle on the horse's back again. This time, the horse moved slightly but did not step away. Elias adjusted it carefully, making sure it was comfortable. The horse stood still. Tom's eyes widened a little. "That's it?" he asked. Elias gave a small nod. "That's it." Tom looked surprised. "I was trying so hard, I thought I had to control it." Elias turned to him. "Control is not always the answer. Understanding is stronger." The words stayed in the air for a moment. Tom looked at the horse again. It was calm now, standing peacefully as if nothing had ever been wrong. Elias stepped back slightly. "Try now," he said. Tom hesitated for a second, then slowly placed his hands on the saddle. The horse did not move away. Carefully, he tightened it. The animal stayed calm. Tom let out a small breath of relief. "I don't understand why it worked now." Elias looked toward the rising sun. "Because you stopped fighting it." Tom was about to ask another question, when suddenly, another ranch hand came running from the direction of the main house. He was out of breath, and his face looked serious. "Mr. Carter," he called. "There's something you need to see right away." Elias turned slowly. His expression did not change much, but there was a quiet seriousness in his eyes now. Tom felt a shift in the air, like the peaceful morning had just taken a different turn. Elias gave one last look at the calm horse, then said calmly, "Stay here and finish your work." Tom nodded, still curious about what was happening. As Elias walked toward the main house, the morning sun rose higher, casting long shadows across the ranch. And for the first time that day, the peaceful silence of Willow Creek Ranch felt like it was holding a secret, one that was about to change everything. Elias Carter walked slowly toward the main house of Willow Creek Ranch. The early morning calm still covered the land, but something about the air felt different now. The wind was softer, almost like it was carrying news it did not want to share too loudly. Behind him, Tom stayed near the stable, still thinking about what had just happened with the horse. He kept glancing at the calm animal, now standing quietly as if it had always been obedient. Tom could not understand how Elias had made it look so simple. Inside the main house, the ranch foreman was already waiting. He was an older man named Henry, someone who had worked with Elias for many years. Normally, Henry looked relaxed and confident, but today, his face showed tension. On the wooden table in the center of the room lay a sealed envelope. It looked ordinary, but the silence around it made it feel heavy. Elias stepped inside and closed the door behind him. "You called for me?" he asked calmly. Henry nodded and pointed at the envelope. "It came early this morning, from the county office." Elias did not rush. He walked toward the table, took the envelope in his hand, and looked at it for a moment before opening it. The room became very quiet. Even the ticking sound of the old wall clock seemed louder than usual. He slowly pulled out the paper and began reading. Tom, who had followed a few steps behind, stood near the doorway. He could not see the letter clearly, but he watched Elias's face carefully. At first, there was no reaction. Then, slowly, a change appeared in his eyes. Not anger, not fear, but something deeper and more thoughtful. Henry broke the silence. "What does it say?" Elias kept reading for a few more seconds before folding the letter neatly. He placed it back on the table as if it weighed more than paper should. "They want part of the ranch," Elias said finally. Henry frowned. "Part of it? For what reason?" Elias turned slightly toward the window. Outside, the ranch stretched far and wide, green fields, fences, horses moving slowly in the distance. It was peaceful, alive, and full of history. "For a railway line," Elias said. The words hung in the air. Tom's eyes widened slightly. "A railway? Through here?" Henry shook his head in disbelief. "But this land has been in your family for generations. They can't just take it." Elias did not answer immediately. He walked closer to the window and looked out. His reflection blended with the view of the land he had grown up on. Tom stepped forward a little. "What are you going to do?" he asked. For a moment, Elias said nothing. The room stayed silent except for the soft sound of the wind outside. Finally, he spoke. "We will go to the meeting." Henry looked surprised. "That's it? No refusal? No argument?" Elias turned slightly. "A decision without understanding is just noise. We will listen first." Tom looked confused. "But they are taking your land." Elias gave a calm look. "Nothing is decided yet." There was something in his tone that made both Henry and Tom stop arguing. It was not weakness. It was control, but of a different kind. Control over emotion, not situation. Elias took his hat from the table and prepared to leave. "Tell the workers to continue as usual," he said. Henry nodded slowly, still uncertain. "And the letter?" Elias placed it in his coat pocket. "It is just a message, not a final answer." He walked out of the house, and Tom followed him again, still thinking deeply. Outside, the sun had risen higher now. The ranch looked brighter, but the feeling around Elias seemed heavier. It was like the calm morning had slowly turned into something uncertain. As they walked back toward the stable area, Tom finally spoke again. "Do you think they will really take it?" Elias looked ahead at the wide land. "They will try to make their decision," he said. Tom asked, "And what will you do?" Elias stopped walking for a moment. He looked at the land, then at the sky, and then back at the ranch that had been his life. "That depends," he said quietly, "on whether they are ready to listen or only to speak." Tom did not fully understand, but he felt something important in those words. The ranch was still peaceful, but now it felt like it was standing at the edge of something bigger. And somewhere in the distance, the future of Willow Creek Ranch was already beginning to change, even if no one could clearly see how yet. The day of the county meeting arrived quickly. The sky above Willow Creek Ranch was clear, but the atmosphere felt tense, as if something important was about to happen. People moved a little slower that morning. Even the usual sounds of the ranch, horses, boots on wood, doors opening, felt quieter than normal. Elias Carter left early, wearing his usual hat and simple coat. He did not look worried, but he also did not look relaxed. It was the same calm expression he always had, the kind that made it hard to guess what he was thinking. Tom rode beside him on a second horse, a year. This was Tom's first time going to such a serious meeting. He kept adjusting his grip on the reins, clearly nervous. "Do you think they will listen?" Tom asked after a while. Elias looked ahead. "People listen when they are ready to understand," he said. Tom frowned slightly. "And if they are not ready?" Elias did not answer immediately. The wind moved softly through the open land as they rode. "Then we still speak," Elias said finally. After a long ride, they reached the small county building near the edge of town. It was a plain structure made of stone and wood, with a large hall inside used for meetings. Several officials were already there, waiting. They were dressed neatly, holding papers, maps, and plans. Their faces showed confidence, like the decision had already been made before Elias even arrived. Inside the hall, chairs were arranged in rows. A large map of the region was pinned to the wall, showing a thick line drawn across part of Willow Creek Ranch. Tom saw it and felt uncomfortable. That line crossed right through the heart of the land. Elias stepped inside calmly and greeted everyone with a slight nod. He did not show anger or resistance. He simply took his seat. One of the officials stood up and began speaking. "Mr. Carter, we appreciate you coming. As you know, the railway project is important for the future of this region." Another official added, "Your land is in the direct path. We will need a portion of it." Tom clenched his hands quietly. He wanted to speak, but Elias raised a hand slightly, stopping him without words. The officials continued explaining their plan. They talked about progress, development, and benefits for the town. Their voices were confident, almost certain. When they finished, they looked at Elias, waiting for his reaction. The room became silent. Tom expected Elias to refuse, to argue, or at least to show strong disagreement. But instead, Elias stood up slowly. Everyone watched him carefully. He walked toward the map on the wall. His footsteps were calm. No rush, no anger. Then he said, "Do it like this." The room became even quieter. Elias pointed at the map, but not at the marked railway line. He pointed slightly above it, toward a different stretch of unused land. "This land here," he said calmly. "Move the railway here instead." The officials looked confused. One of them frowned. "That area is longer and slightly uneven. It will take more work." Elias nodded. "Yes, but it avoids the ranch completely. No homes, no farms, no disruption." Tom stared at him, shocked. He could not understand what Elias was doing. Instead of refusing, he was offering another solution. One official shook his head. That was not part of the plan. Elias turned toward them. His voice stayed steady. "Plans can change when they harm people unnecessarily." The room became tense. Some officials started whispering to each other. This was not the response they expected. They had prepared for resistance, negotiation, maybe even conflict, but not this. One of them said firmly, "Mr. Carter, this is not how decisions are made." Elias replied calmly, "Then maybe decisions should be made differently." Tom looked around the room. He noticed something strange. The officials were not angry, but they were unsure. They were used to people fighting them, not offering them better options. Silence stretched for a long moment. Finally, one senior official spoke. "We will need time to review this suggestion." Elias nodded once. "Take your time. But remember, land is not just space. It is life for those who live on it." After that, he stepped back and returned to his seat. The meeting ended without a final decision. Outside the building, Tom could not hold back his confusion anymore. "Why didn't you just say no?" he asked quickly. "You gave them another option instead of protecting your own land directly?" Elias looked at him calmly. "Because refusal closes doors. Understanding opens them." Tom shook his head slightly. "But they might still change it later." Elias looked toward the distant land. "Maybe, but now they are thinking differently. That is where change begins." Tom did not respond. He was still trying to understand everything. As they rode back toward Willow Creek Ranch, the sun was beginning to set. The sky turned orange again, just like it had on the first morning. But now, everything felt different. The ranch was still there, still standing strong. But the future was no longer simple. Something had shifted that day, not through force, not through conflict, but through a choice that no one had expected. And Elias Carter had done something that many still could not fully understand. He had changed the direction of a fight without ever starting one. The sun set slowly over Willow Creek Ranch, painting the sky in deep orange and soft purple colors. The wind moved gently across the fields, passing through fences, barns, and open land, like it was saying goodbye to another long day. Elias Carter rode back into the ranch with Tom beside him. Neither of them spoke much on the way. The ride felt longer than usual, not because of distance, but because of everything that had happened at the county meeting. Tom's mind was still full of questions. He kept thinking about the map, the officials, and especially Elias's calm decision to offer a different path instead of simply refusing them. When they reached the ranch, the usual sounds returned: horses moving in their pens, workers finishing their tasks, and the soft creaking of wooden structures. But something felt different in Tom's heart. He was starting to see things in a new way. Elias dismounted slowly and walked toward the stable. The horses inside were calm, as if they had been waiting for him. One of them stepped forward slightly when he entered, recognizing his presence. Tom followed and finally spoke. "I still don't understand," he said honestly. "They wanted your land. You didn't say no. You didn't fight. You just gave them another way." Elias gently placed a hand on the horse's neck. "Not everything is solved by saying no," he replied. Tom frowned. "But what if they still take it later?" Elias looked at him for a moment. "Then we deal with that when it comes. But today, we kept the land safe without breaking everything around it." Tom leaned against a wooden post, still confused. "It felt like you were helping them more than yourself." Elias gave a small, calm smile. "Helping the right decision is helping everyone." A soft silence followed. Days passed after the meeting. The ranch slowly returned to its normal rhythm. But in the nearby town, something unusual was happening. The officials were reviewing the alternative route Elias had suggested. At first, many of them resisted the idea. It was longer, slightly harder, and required more planning. But they could not ignore one thing. The new route avoided damaging farms, homes, and important land. One evening, a letter arrived again at Willow Creek Ranch. This time, it was not rushed or sealed with urgency. It was official, but calm. Elias opened it in the same quiet way he always did. Tom stood nearby, watching closely. As Elias read, his expression remained steady. But this time, there was something softer in his eyes. Henry, the foreman, asked carefully, "What does it say this time?" Elias folded the letter slowly. "They agreed," he said. Tom straightened up immediately. "They accepted your suggestion?" Elias nodded once. For a moment, no one spoke. The meaning of those words slowly settled in. The railway would still be built, but it would be moved. The ranch would remain untouched. The land would stay whole. Tom let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "So, it worked?" Elias looked out toward the open fields. "It didn't work because I won," he said. "It worked because no one lost what truly mattered." Tom slowly smiled. "I think I'm starting to understand." Elias turned slightly. "What do you understand?" Tom thought for a moment. "That fighting is not always strength. Sometimes, choosing a different path is stronger." Elias gave a small nod. "Good. Remember that." That evening, the ranch felt peaceful in a deeper way than before. Not just quiet, but settled, like something uncertain had finally found its place. Tom walked out into the field alone for a while. The horses were grazing calmly under the fading light. The sky was turning dark, but the stars were beginning to appear. He realized something important. Elias had not only saved land, he had also changed the way people thought about problems. Not everyone had understood it at first. Even Tom had doubted it. But now, the result was clear. Elias did not win by force. He did not win by refusing. He won by guiding a difficult situation into a better shape. Later that night, Tom returned to the stable where Elias was still working quietly. The rancher was fixing a broken wooden gate, as if nothing major had happened. Tom walked over and stood beside him. "People in town are talking about you," he said. Elias didn't look up. "What are they saying?" Tom smiled slightly. "That you did the unthinkable." Elias paused for a moment, then continued working. "Sometimes," he said calmly, "the unthinkable is just doing what is right when everyone expects something else." Tom nodded slowly, finally understanding. The wind moved across Willow Creek Ranch one last time that night, carrying peace over the land. And as the stars filled the sky, one truth remained clear. This ranch had survived not because of strength alone, but because one man chose understanding over conflict. Elias Carter stood quietly in the darkness, watching over his land. And for the first time in a long while, everything felt exactly as it should be.